Welcome in again, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the R&D Sports Report. I'm Dishmond, and I'm joined here, as always, by Rylee. How we doing?
Pretty good, man.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about tonight, and we discussed this a little bit before we even got started here. There's a lot to discuss since our last episode. A lot has been revealed over the weekend.
Yes.
And we even discussed Friday, maybe even Saturday, of doing a bonus episode just to solely talk about the FBI issues inside the NCAA going on, and this whole pay-for-play scandal, as most are calling it. But as more and more information kept coming out, we decided it was kind of better to let it rest for a couple days and to let as much information come out to give us the most amount to talk about. But we definitely do have a full plate of things in regards to the FBI tonight. And with that, we'll get started here. And Rylee, I think the biggest thing to start with, obviously, is the article that was released by Yahoo's Pat Forty and Pete Thamel early Friday morning.
I believe so.
And we went last week. We had the NCAA's appealing ruling of U of L coming down, and so it was a busy week in the college basketball world. And then Friday we have kind of as people call it, this bombshell, right? And everybody keeps saying the tip of the iceberg, and a phrase that we'll try to refrain from using as much as possible because it seems to be overused. But you have the article released, and pretty much the article is centered around a few pictures of some spreadsheets from Andy Miller and the ASM agency. And it has quite a few names on there.
Yes, ones that are very interesting to look at.
And even some high-profile names on there, as we'll get into a little bit here. But did anything really catch you by surprise when you saw this article originally?
No, I would think more of the big schools is what caught me by surprise. I mean, yeah, you get used to them being so good. Of course, they're going to look into them. But at the same time, I'm kind of surprised that some of those big schools like that, paid some of those men to play for them.
Well, and I think that's kind of where everybody's mind went to, that the schools, right, are paying for them. I mean, kind of have to be careful there of walking a fine line, because even with all this that was released over the weekend, we don't have very many dots connected, right?
No.
In the case for, like, University of Louisville, right, they are alleged to have a wiretap of one of their assistants discussing money for Brian Bowen to come to the University of Louisville, right, a payment for you to come there.
Yeah.
And now, in another report, a separate report, that Sean Miller is apparently on wiretap discussing money for their star in Ayton down at Arizona. But, there's a lot to kind of unpack here. So, any certain place you want to start unpacking some of this information?
I will say, just my perspective. When I got the alert of Sean Miller, being on wiretap about was it DeAndre Ayton? I think it is. I can't remember what's his name. I think it's DeAndre, isn't it?
Yes.
But anyways, I saw that, and I wouldn't say I was surprised, but to know that, now that, they're finally getting into it, to see how many people are getting spotted right now, I I wouldn't say scary for the NCAA, but it's definitely it's like everybody's on pins and needles, and I feel like it's kind of mind blowing at how much is going down in the NCAA right now.
Well, and I think the best example there of everybody being on pins and needles is this report that comes out today with Auburn, right? Self-reporting, they said, was it $5 or $6?
Yeah.
After money had been thrown at them after they had played the Florida Gators, right? They said that they took it to their compliance office, and the quote, I think, was from Bruce Pearl of, "We are, because we are compliant, we took it to our compliance office," or something along those lines, because we are always compliant.
Right.
And it's like, you're one of them involved in this. Like,
Exactly.
how can you really say because we're always compliant, especially when a guy in Bruce Pearl has already been in trouble with the NCAA prior, basically just for that one for lying about having the cookout at his house when he was at Tennessee.
Right. Well, and a lot of them, if you look back at the Yahoo
report.
Report. I can't like my English tonight is so off. But if you look at that, a lot of them is oh man, I'm not doing well at English tonight. But oh my gosh, just take the wheel. I can't do it.
We just put one word after the other, and we form a sentence here.
Like my mind just went blank all of a sudden for some reason.
Well, I mean, this puts into a whole another perspective this FBI thing, because for so long we were everybody's cheating, everybody's this, everybody's that, right? We already know everybody always pays everybody, and I think this kind of somewhat brings to light some of that issue, but it also brings to light the vulnerability, I think, of some of these kids.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to completely say they're off the hook. But for some of these kids, and one of the names listed on there was Bam Adebayo, formerly of Kentucky, and he would have, when this ledger was put out, it would have been when he was still in high school, and he was said to have accepted money and all that. Now, we don't necessarily know if it's just him that accepted money, if it was his family, if it were somebody close to him. Even from this ledger, right, we see at the end, next to his name it said bad loan, right, because he didn't sign with the agency and all that. What we also don't know is that it could have been somebody, and I know the paperwork on this Yahoo report said, loans to players and all that, but it could have been somebody trying to steer him maybe to a certain school or just steer him toward ASM. But for a kid like him to grow up in such rough conditions and such poverty, right? When someone is offering you this money, it's really hard to turn it down, because what you're doing in playing the game of basketball is to try and get out of poverty, and that a lot of these kids look as it being their escape, right? That's their way out of poverty. That's their way for their parents to get out of poverty, even.
Right.
And so,
you can see that.
Well, you could understand why they would. Yeah, exactly. But you could understand why they would take this money, especially if somebody's kind of offering it and they're not quite thinking. Now, for a lot of these players, right, they're accepting money, whether and most of it probably being in high school or Nerlens Noel, right? His name is on there, but he had been in the pros by then.
Yeah. And
pros, get loans from their agents, especially in between a time like the draft and maybe the start of the season. You run a little short or something. It's trying to also understand, how to handle all this money that you just got, and you might need a short-term loan and you can pay it right back. And for some of these kids, right after you would get out of college, in between, if your season, let's say, ends in, if you make it the furthest, it would end, beginning of April?
I believe so.
So, championship game, let's say you make it all the way to NCAA championship. You already know that you're going to leave college, right?
Yeah.
And you would be in the championship game right at the beginning of April, and you wouldn't play your first NBA game till right at the end of October, I think is when they start now.
Yeah.
And typically you're not really going to get paid besides maybe some endorsement deals or something, but you're not going to get like your NBA salary until you're at that first game. So you're talking, April to October would be 5, 6 months, something like that.
Yeah.
In a time frame, right? And, you might need a little extra cash, and that's where, some agents would come in, and that's fine after you've already completed your college career. And for a guy like a Bam Adebayo to have allegedly accepted this money, and I do want to make that clear, right? This is all allegedly for right now, because we don't know what the FBI has.
No.
And I think that also leads into kind of in this culture we're in now, right? Instead of it being as it's supposed to be and having due process and being innocent until proven guilty, it seems like anymore it is guilty until proven innocent.
And I feel like it's going to take probably more than 3 years maybe to even get all of this down and back to normal.
Well, and that's another issue, right? It's going to take this long process, because what we got from Pat Forty and Pete Thamel, right, we don't know where that came from. Did somebody right from the FBI slip it to him?
Could have.
Or another theory I'd heard of and I hadn't even thought about, right? Was it like a defense attorney for maybe one of these players named on here that slipped this information to them? Because, right, in the court setting, you have to, as like the prosecutor, you have to be able to present the defense attorney with all the evidence that they're going to basically use against your client, so you know how to be able to defend them, right? You are well aware of kind of where they're coming from, and you can kind of see it. But as far as this goes, right, a player like Bam, if he accepts money in college, or in high school, excuse me, if he did, right, or if his mom did. Now, his high school coach came out and said, right, Bam, he didn't do this, right? He didn't take the money as far as he knows. But you have to also think there's AAU coaches involved in all this.
Yeah, and that's the problem there.
But you have him accepting money in high school, right, which would have made him ineligible while he played at Kentucky. But, Kentucky releasing a statement, and you see this from not only Kentucky and John Calipari, but you see it from other schools, and one of them, I'm losing the coach at Xavier's name in my head, Chris Mack, there we go. Right, he came out and said, and multiple coaches did, I don't know who, I have no relationship with Charles Dawkins or Andy Miller, any of these, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much pushing yourself as far away as you can from this whole situation.
And I don't blame them, to be honest with you.
Well, and no, I don't blame, and I think that's something that they had to do, is to distance yourself from the situation, because, and I keep using his name, and I hate to keep using it, but it's one of the more prominent ones on there. A Bam accepting money, right? If he takes the money, well, how's Kentucky supposed to know, right, that he took the money in high school? Is he really going to go up to him and go, hey, guys, I took this money in high school?
Like, why would you want to tell him,
Well, because then they wouldn't play you, and you know that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't
even Markelle Fultz was on there, and he would have still been in high school too, wouldn't he? Yeah, because he was just drafted this his rookie season.
Yeah.
Along with a guy like Bam. So he would have been in high school. Is he going to go to Washington and to his coach Lorenzo Romar, which conveniently is at Arizona now.
Yeah.
Which is also having issues, but that's a completely other separate story from all this. But you have, these players accepting money. Are you really going to go to the university and go, hey, I accepted some money in high school, and you're not going to play, right? Because the reason you came to the NCAA instead of going to a place like the G League is because you wanted that marketability, right? You wanted to be able to be marketed by the NCAA, right? To get your name out there. Think of a guy like Lonzo Ball, right? Not caught up in all this, but somebody that most people didn't know unless you followed the recruiting scene heavily, right? Until he bust on the scene for UCLA and just keeps dominating college basketball.
Well, like you said earlier, why would you want to stay away from this as far as you can player-wise? So, like you were talking about Bam, if I were him, I'd stay away from this as far as possible. Even though they're going to bring you into this, stay away from it as far as possible.
Well, and I think players like him, they've gone to the, I'm not going to comment on this, and I'm not going to talk about this because they don't want to say anything that could incriminate them. And, who knows what the FBI has. And
oh, yeah.
Excuse me. But that's the other thing, is that we still don't know what the FBI has.
No.
Right? We just got a sampling of this in this article from Pete Thamel and Pat Forty. So, this whole thing, we come out in, September that the FBI comes out and says this, and many schools don't take a whole lot of action besides maybe suspending coaches that were involved. University of Louisville obviously taking the most action in firing Rick Pitino. But in that story, even, Pitino had just been caught up in this stripper scandal, right?
Sex scandal,
and then also now having him being involved as coach too for swinging big stuff there,
right?
As reported by the FBI. But they took the most severe action getting rid of him. But I think that's also a move on their part to try and save them from the death penalty.
Yeah.
But we don't know what the FBI has.
No, and that's going back to earlier again, saying that it's going to take probably more than 3 years to get through this, right? And everybody back to normal. And I'm sure even past that 3 years, there's still going to be crap going on between the schools and coaches and players.
Well, and I think it's important with your timeline of the 3 years, right? Who's to say that the FBI wraps this all up by this coming September, right?
Right.
So they've got that. The NCAA is not known for moving at a very fast pace.
No.
Because as we discussed last week with Louisville getting their punishment, right? The allegations first came out against Louisville in 2015.
Right, and it took them, it's 2018 now.
Right. 2.5 years probably when you actually did the math.
Exactly.
For them, because by the time you go and you give them the notice of, you get the allegations and the NCAA says, here's your letter of allegations, notice of allegations, whatever, and then the school responds back, the NCAA responds back, and and you go back and forth. They give you the original punishment. Well, then the schools automatically are going to appeal the punishment, and then the NCAA has to rule against the appeal.
Right, and I get it. Louisville did a whole bunch of crap that was just so not right, so against the rules. But if it took them not long to get through one school, imagine 20 schools? Oh my gosh, it's going to take forever.
Well, and who's to say there's not more out there, right?
Exactly.
Who's to say that we may not who's to say that every NCAA Division I school is not involved in some way, which I think is probably a little extreme.
Yeah.
And I'd say this number may tick up toward 30, 35.
Probably.
If you remember the reports, they said 36 schools, 36 schools. And one report said 50 schools. So, There are quite a few Division I schools, and so 50 is just a portion of it, even at that. But in this, right, you get even current players that are in college right now. You get Kevin Knox, that's at Kentucky. You get Miles Bridges at Michigan State, DeAndre Ayton, Arizona, right? A lot of kids that are caught up in this currently, but for ones like Kevin Knox and Wendell Carter down at Duke,
right?
Their issue is apparently accepting basically a meal, meeting with an agent, which, let's be clear, is not an NCAA violation.
No, I don't think it is.
But it only is if the agent pays for the meal.
Now, like, in my opinion, I think, like, just even an agent buying a player dinner, I think that's kind of stupid. But, I mean, I could see where, they're talking about, paying for the players. I mean, that kind of...
Right, receiving this improper benefit.
Right, really, he got a burger. Like, let him go. Come on now. Like, why you gotta make such a big deal out of something so small?
Well, and the thing with the NCAA, especially when you're talking of some of these amounts that for a kid like a Kevin Knox, if he did receive impermissible benefits, there is a way he can get around it. And I'll read it from the NCAA here, right? It is 16.01.1.1, and it is titled Restitution for Receipt of Impermissible Benefits. And this is probably something a lot of people have already seen by now. But it says, unless otherwise noted, for violations of Bylaw 16, in which the value of the benefit is $200 or less, the eligibility of the student athlete shall not be affected. Condition upon the student athlete's repayment of the benefit to a charity of his or her choice. The student athlete, however, shall remain ineligible from the time the institution has knowledge of receipt of impermissible benefit until the student athlete repays the benefit, and then it continues on. Violations of the bylaw remain. And so for a Miles Bridges, a Kevin Knox, right, if there were anything wrong with it, you say their meal was $40, and I think that's what like Wendell Carter and Kevin Knox were accused of amount-wise, like a $40 meal. Give $40 to some charity, and you're automatically eligible to play.
Now, in my opinion, I think that's good because, I mean, of course, it's donated to charity, so I'm all for it. Now, I can agree with them having to pay, the money back to charity. That's fine. But I would agree if you exceed over a certain amount of money, I feel like that's kind of, improper benefits.
Well, I think for, accepting money for a meal, right, and to be able to pay it right back, and that's also in there, right? From time the university receives notice of the allegations and what it says. So does this report on Yahoo, right, does that count as them being notified of it?
I don't know.
Or is it, when the NCAA, and that's kind of like a gray area.
Pretty much. It's like a dead zone right there.
But multiple universities did this Friday and even some on Saturday and said, hey, we've reviewed the case. There's nothing here. They will continue play as normal. And that's kind of what we all figured. But the biggest person that was missing from a game on Saturday, name-wise really, was Sean Miller not coaching Arizona. And I believe officially they said it was because Sean didn't want to make it a big deal about himself, right, in terms of bringing the attention away from his boys as they played Oregon on Saturday.
Well, and to be honest, why would you want to go out there with all that shame on you, you know?
Well, but if you've got nothing to hide, right, why not
True.
go out there?
True.
And I don't remember if it was Sean Miller's call or the school's call, and it might have been a combination of the two. But I think even if say it's Sean Miller's call and maybe he just didn't want to get heckled. But this isn't going anywhere, right? This is something that's going to continue to stick around and something that, is going to be talked about throughout the NCAA tournament, which, by the way, conveniently, is where they make their money for the entire year.
Oh, yeah.
They have no stake in the college football playoff. That's done by the conferences creating that playoff system. You also have, obviously things like volleyball and soccer and, other sports. But most of those sports, money-wise, either break even or they lose money.
So do you think it's jacked up that basketball earns more than other sports like that?
Well, I think the thing that's kind of messed up about the entire thing, right, is that the NCAA, right, if you watch at the beginning of every tournament, they roll this video package out, right? They roll this big video package out showing these players and their likeness.
Oh, yeah.
Now, mind you, making plays for them. And these players' likeness that the NCAA can use, can produce posters with, can produce these commercials. Universities sell jerseys, right? Maybe not necessarily with the names on it, but if you've got a jersey, with a certain number, who that player is on your team that year, right?
Right.
And so I think that's somewhat of where maybe some of these issues stem, but I also think this entire thing of pay stems from the NBA's one and done rule. But real quickly back to Sean Miller before we kind of get into that one and done rule. Do you think Sean Miller makes it past the season at Arizona?
No, heck no. No.
I agree. Do you think he ever coaches again in the NCAA?
I would say yes, but I would feel bad for the team that he's coaching.
Okay,
I'd
so
be scared.
Well, and you say you think he might coach again.
Might.
And it could be far down, but I think this is kind of an easy question here. But what if, the NCAA or the FBI, comes out and shows exactly and has the audio of him trying to get money for DeAndre Ayton to come to Arizona?
Dude, he's going downhill so fast, bro. He's not going to be able to see where he's going.
Which, by the way, I necessarily don't really feel sorry for him.
No, I don't either.
Because I don't know if you happen to see this or not. Apparently, there's some mistake by the lawyer in drawing up his contract where they still have to pay him if they fired him this year like $10 million or something like that.
Wow.
Even if they fire him for cause.
So he still gets some money either way.
Anyway, yeah.
Wow.
Which, if you remember back in some of the issue here, and not to keep harping on U of L, but that was, some of their issue when they fired Rick Pitino.
Yeah, I believe he sued for his money.
Well, and he has sued for the money, and the university has countersued back, and that's completely a giant mess.
It's still going on.
But right, they fired him for cause, meaning they didn't owe him any money.
Yeah.
Because they could have just fired him, and they still would have owed him though like $35 million.
Yeah.
So if you fire him for cause in Rick Pitino's contract, he got zero, and that's what they did. In Sean Miller's contract here, apparently there must be an error somewhere, but it's all been signed, so it's legal, where he's still going to get like $10 million.
Lucky guy.
So, bravo to his agent, apparently, for, getting that contract. But
heck of a guy.
and I know this has kind of been a topic of discussion here as far as the FBI stuff goes. And once again, I think it is very important to say we have no idea what the FBI has.
No.
And we won't know until they're ready to release it.
Yeah, which could be, again, 3 years from now.
Well, and it could go on for that long for them. But the NCAA is not going to do anything because they don't have the same power that the FBI has.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have the subpoena power, the wiretapping power. And I know I keep going back to this, but it's just the most recent case.
Right, they're just sitting back and relaxing right now.
You know, the U of L case, they were never able to get Andre McGee, who was accused of throwing those parties, to talk because he left his job and basically just said, I'm not coming back to coaching. You know, the way they were kind of able to do it is to, you know, force some players somewhat to cooperate and talk and, you know, tell the truth of what actually went on and kind of hold their eligibility in line there. But, you know, they don't have the power to do a wiretap like the FBI does and get you kind of in secret. But I think, and I've heard this in multiple ways and multiple places and multiple opinions, that some of this might even stem from the NBA's one and done rule. I don't think it all stems from there. I don't think the exact answer is to pay the players.
No.
In college, but there's got to be some balance of it. And I think, you know, obviously this has been happening probably for, you know, decades. On back and even into like the 70s and all that, when you had programs going down for cheating and things like that. And I think, though, in this time that the one-and-done rule has kind of made this situation worse.
Yeah, it's kind of added on to it.
Well, because these players are going to the NCAA to get the notoriety and their name out there, and because going to the G League, that's not going to work, right?
No, they have to be in the NBA.
Well, and that's what they want. They want to be able to be in the NBA. Now, the NBA would say you don't have to go to college. You can go overseas and make money.
Oh, yeah.
But we've seen that doesn't necessarily work out well. And at the same time, your name's not as big when you come back for the NCAA draft. Or the NBA draft from the NCAA. Now you're rubbing off on me, and I can't get my words correct here.
I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm sorry.
But, you know, you can go to what's now the G League and go ahead and get paid. Now, I've seen, you know, some players that have gone to the G League even after being seniors in college, and they're like, man, it sucks. Right? You're riding on buses here and there, and that's probably part of the reason. The other reason, I think, is that every NBA team does not have a G League affiliate, and I know Adam Silver has talked about making that so that every NBA team does have a G League affiliate. But, you know, the option here to get your name out there is to go to the NCAA.
Yeah.
To make a name for yourself. As we talked, you know, Lonzo Ball making a name for himself last year. You know, De'Aaron Fox making a name for himself. This year, right, think of the beginning of the season and even into December and all that, right? Who's the guy's name you kept seeing all the time before games, especially on ESPN?
Nobody. I mean, maybe Trae Young.
Oh, Trae. I mean, just think of it though. When especially December, early January, right? You almost couldn't turn to a game without hearing about Trae Young, exactly. Oklahoma, right? Yeah. And now he's had a downhill slide a little bit, so it's kind of
wearing off now.
Well, and it is. But these kids come to the NCAA because that's where they can make a name for themselves, right? That's where they can get their brand, so to speak, bigger. Right. You know, I don't know if there's maybe some way that they can be able to use their likeness, right, to get some money off of their likeness. Because even when they're in college, right, if they sign an autograph for somebody, they can't take money for it.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to sign these autographs and move on. Otherwise, you're ineligible.
Yeah, I think that's a little ridiculous.
Well, and considering if, let's say you went and got an autograph, right?
Yeah.
And you got the autograph, the next day you can go sell it, right? So you're making the money off his name when he's not able to. Or her name, let's be fair, but all this issue is in men's college basketball right now.
So what you're saying is if I wanted to, I could screw whoever over.
Exactly. So if you went to, give me 2 teams, and I'll see if I can pull somebody from the team.
Duke and just because it's easy, Kentucky.
Okay. So if you went to a Duke-Kentucky game, right, you could get an autograph from
Grayson
Allen, from Kevin Knox, from Hamidou Diallo, from Marvin Bagley, right? Those are just a few short names there.
Yeah.
You could go get a signature, say, and you put all 4 of those on one page. Or you did a Duke one and a Kentucky one. You could then go to somebody who is a sports dealer, right, and then you could sell it and make the money off of selling that piece of paper.
I'm just saying, if you do that, you're completely heartless.
Well, and there are people who do it, though.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just
and
saying,
that's what's sad.
They're heartless.
There are people who own those sports memorabilia shops that will do it just to make profit for their own business, right? It didn't cost them anything to purchase it.
Nope.
All you had to do is get the guy to sign it. But I think there's obviously a fix, and I know Mark Emmert, the president of the NCAA, said he had put a committee together to try and fix this, and every time he talks, I'm just like, dude, there's clearly a problem here. We've missed something here.
Oh yeah,
and now you're going. But see, here's the thing: how long would this have gone if the FBI didn't step in?
Ooh.
Would we even know about it?
See, that's a good question. That's a good question because you would sit on the edge constantly, not knowing if your team's in trouble or not, and that would be so aggravating.
Well, I mean, you would just go back to Duke's got to be cheating. They're getting the top 3 guys in next year's recruiting class, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, John Calipari's dirty. Kentucky's got to be cheating to get all these star athletes. Still wouldn't have any proof, right?
Exactly.
And that's, when this FBI report fully comes out, and we'll be able to really see what the scope of this is. But once again, who knows when that will be. But getting into kind of the NBA a little bit with this one and done, I did see Stan Van Gundy had some comments about this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you have his comments pulled up there?
Yes, I do. All right. Well, he said this. He said, people that were against players coming out of high school made a lot of excuses, but I think a lot of it was racist. He said, according to the Detroit Free Press, I've never heard anybody go up in arms about minor league baseball or hockey. He also said he took an aim at the NCAA, saying the NCAA is one of the worst organizations, maybe the worst organization of sports. And he also said they certainly don't care about the athlete.
So, I mean, those are some pointed words, right?
Yeah. Well, and he's also got guts to stand up to such a big apparently the worst organization.
Well, but see, for him, right, being in Detroit as the Pistons head coach, he doesn't care anything about the NCAA, right?
No, he really doesn't.
But at the same time, he even took a shot at the NBA, right?
Yeah.
Because he's talking about, their one-and-done rule basically just kind of being garbage.
Pretty much.
Now, in terms of baseball, I'm not sure who has the rule. It might be the NCAA that actually has the rule of eligibility, and it may be the MLB. But you can go straight out of high school if you wish, right? And some players do. Some players don't want to go to school at all. So no matter where I'm picked, I'm going to go play minor league baseball.
Right.
And, he makes a point there about it being racist, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're telling these kids, right, in a sport like a hockey and a baseball, right, especially in hockey, right, predominantly white players. Baseball, you have probably still the majority of white players, even though you have some that come from like the Dominican Republic and Asian and places like that, but predominantly white. If you look at the NBA, it is predominantly black.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of these kids, that's their escape out of poverty, right? That's their way to be able to change their families' lives for generations. So I think his comments have some merit in the sense that, right, if I'm a baseball player, I can go sign a contract, you know, with the Cincinnati Reds right out of high school. And there are a lot of high school players that get picked number 1 overall in the MLB draft. I can go play in the minor leagues for a couple years. But at the same time, I've already made millions of dollars off my signing bonus.
Oh, yeah.
Just for being a draft pick.
Yeah.
But in the NBA, it's not good enough. Now, when you think of it, not every high school player that tried entering the NBA made it.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be talking about every single senior in high school going, I'm going to apply for the NBA.
No, you have to be to the point of where you don't need college to get good.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, it is going to take an elite talent, right?
Right.
Kobe could do it. Kevin Garnett could do it. LeBron James, obviously, could do it. But it takes those types of talents to be able to do it. To be able to go straight from high school to the NBA, the greatest basketball league in the world. Right?
Right.
There's really no debate, especially when you're talking about greatest talent-wise in the world. But, you know, we kind of trap these kids in because we say, hey, even though you have the most talent, and you might be ready to go, you still have to go to college for a year. You have to do something for a year.
Right. Well, in this whole one-and-done thing, I feel like, you know, I like the G League. I don't watch a whole lot of it, but I have seen some of it.
They can be competitive games.
Oh, yeah. But I feel like this whole one-and-done, I don't agree with the one-and-done. I think it's I wouldn't say jacking up the NBA, but I feel like it's kind of messing with the rosters, and I feel like it's not doing as it should. Like, do you agree with that?
I think it is because I do agree with you in the sense that it is kind of messing with the NBA somewhat. The original reasoning, right, is because coming out of high school, right, to improve the overall quality of the NBA, and I think it has. But at the same time, I think it's also hurt college basketball.
Yeah. So,
you know, the major area that you're going to use as a feeder system, so to speak, without paying them like a feeder system, mind you. You know, it's not like Major League Baseball where you have minor league teams within your organization. The NCAA is completely separate from the NBA.
Exactly.
So, you know, you have these different groups, and it's just... It's really an issue, I think, it's going to be going forward, and I think before too long, maybe the next season or two, I think it'll be done away with.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Now, kind of what I'd almost like to see, and this is just kind of my personal opinion, I don't know how you feel about it, is something similar to like a baseball, where you can have someone advise you, right? And that was another one of Mark Emmert's comments. You know, maybe we need to look at the agent's role kind of being closer to maybe a baseball, hockey thing. So you can have an advisor in baseball, right out of high school, trying to help you to make these decisions of whether you should stay in, you know, whether you should go to the major leagues or whether you should like go to college. Or if you're in college, whether you should stay another year or go to the majors.
Right.
And, you know, in that they can, I think, offer you, they can help loan you a little bit of money and all that you have to pay back when you're done with school. But, so baseball, you can be drafted right out of high school, or you have to stay, I think it's 3 years, maybe to age 21.
Huh.
So honestly, I think that would help kind of both games.
Yeah.
Because that way you get your elite talents, an Anthony Davis that might have been able to go straight from college or straight from high school to the NBA. A Marvin Bagley that's at Duke this year. But then also you would have some players that would try to make the jump and they wouldn't be successful.
Right, they would get denied.
But I think that's where the G League comes in. That's where I think the G League needs to be stronger and better prepared and more equipped for some of these to go and to, kind of take that risk, so to speak, on themselves. Because a kid coming out of high school, right, at 18 years old, they can go make millions if they have a brilliant invention.
Yeah.
Right? Or if they have a talent to do something, to play music, let's say, right? That's their talent, and that's their ability. They can go make millions traveling the road as a musician.
Right.
But you're telling me because a kid can play basketball really, really good, he can't make money off of that right out of high school?
I see where you're going with this.
Right? So I think that's an issue in and of itself. There definitely needs to be some reworking here. But I think the key is the NBA and the NCAA almost need to work together, right?
Yeah, I feel like they're fighting each other right now.
And I think they kind of are, because obviously the NCAA wants those 4 years so you can get to know these players, over time and grow attached to them.
Right.
But the NBA is like, look, just hold them for a year for us, and we'll come get them when we're ready for them.
Right. Well, I feel like with the one and done, hopefully not being there in the next 2 years, there will be elite players that will stay there a couple more years and go into the NBA, be great players. But I feel like a lot of people are saying, if they do that, then, the G League's going to end. No. Not everyone's going to be great as the others. Not everyone's going to, get better. And, they'll still have to work in the G League, kind of like a little, tiny college basketball, to get into that NBA.
Well, and I think it could help the G League in and of itself.
Right.
Because especially in a day like of YouTube and all that, right? Think of a kid like a Zion Williamson, right? He's basically just blowing up all over YouTube and the internet in and of itself because he can throw down these massive dunks.
Yeah.
Right? But he can't go make money off those YouTube videos, right?
No.
Otherwise, he's ineligible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you and I wanted to put this thing onto YouTube right now, right, we can go make money off of it if we get enough hits on it.
Right.
Anybody in high school, let's say it's a girl doing a makeup tutorial, can go make millions off of having a bunch of hits on YouTube. Right? You can go make it for dancing stupid in videos and people just enjoying it.
Yeah.
But because a kid can throw down dunk after dunk, windmill after windmill, right? He can't make money off of like a mixed dunk video on YouTube.
Right.
Then he's ineligible. So I think there needs to be some issue with the likeness, being able to kind of use their own likeness. Maybe the NBA says you can come out of high school, but if you choose not to, then you have to be 2 years removed, 3 years removed. Then I think it helps college basketball because then you get to see players develop.
Yeah, and that's the fun part about college basketball that I like personally.
And then, for even coaches, it would make it kind of a little easier because like a John Calipari is not turning over his roster completely year after year, right? He knows who to kind of expect. But honestly, I think what they might just go back to is, look, you can just come here whenever,
Right.
And so some will go to the NBA right away. Some will go to the NCAA for a year, 2, 3, whatever it might be. But obviously, there's some disconnect here with all this money being passed around. And we know obviously all this money is available because we've seen it in these FBI reports, and probably will continue to see it. If in the future, if it, a story like this blows up, you and I may do a bonus episode.
Yeah.
But if we still, keep getting stuff to come out, we're gonna have to wait, and because otherwise we're gonna record.
We're gonna be overflowing.
Well, and then we would record, one, and then take a break, and then we'd have to record something else because we'd get more information out. But kind of transitioning off this topic and into something else that we've kind of started doing in a random story, and to get your thoughts on this one. Some of our...
I'm excited. Since this is becoming a new thing, I'm really liking it. You're surprising me. I like it.
Oh, I think you're going to be surprised by this one. Because
Okay.
I found this on ABC News, and it's a little bit disgusting, to be honest.
Okay.
But ABC News had it from the Associated Press, and it says this is the title. I'm just going to read you the title right off the bat here, right?
Here we go. I'm ready.
And so the title of this one is Texas Woman Defecates in Pants to Hide Drugs During Arrest.
What? Hold on. Read that again.
Texas woman defecates in pants to hide drugs during arrest.
Wow, bro. Just... oh, my gosh. People are hilarious.
So, apparently, according to Texas police, a Texas woman attempted to hide the evidence during an arrest by defecating, by pooping, in her pants. And so...
It's so disgusting.
And that's the thing.
Oh.
Some of these stories are just so random and they're so disgusting, but I have to share them with you and everybody else here because I think there is a little bit of comedy in this.
I'm just saying, if y'all are dying right now, I really don't blame you.
Well, but at the same time, I think it also speaks to some of this drug epidemic that is kind of going and sweeping across the nation, that you would rather poop your pants than be caught with drugs. And obviously, just in general, right, that just may be somebody's thing.
I just, there's no words.
She apparently, this lady was apparently accused of a theft at a grocery store. And when they attempted to subdue her, right, and take her into custody, they placed her in the back of the car, in the back of the police car, and apparently she then intentionally defecated in her pants to hide what she had was a crack pipe, 2.3 grams of crack cocaine, and here's the kicker, a Valentine's Day card in her poop.
Hey, do you smell that?
Hey, let's leave aside everything else. A Valentine's Day card.
Wonder who.
How would you like to get that Valentine's Day card?
I'd rather. No, just love you. Bye.
Thanks for the thought, but I don't want this. Right?
I appreciate it.
But
wow, just wow.
And so the worst part is that the officers had to sift through this to get all the evidence, obviously, out, and now.
God bless their hearts.
Oh,
dude.
I know.
That's so awful.
I don't know that I could handle doing that. But apparently now she is being booked on tampering with evidence and possessions of a controlled substance. That is our random / funny story of the day. How is that one for you?
I'm kind of speechless. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm just speechless. There's nothing what are you supposed to say to that? What in the world, man?
And
I feel bad for the officers.
I
really do.
completely feel bad for the officers. But if you have a story like this that you want to hear us read and get Riley's reaction right away from me just reading even the headline of it, you can send it to us on Twitter or on Facebook. You can tag us in it. On Twitter, it'd be R&D Sports Report. And then on Facebook, you can find our page at facebook.com/R&D Sports Report. You could post it on our wall there on Facebook, and I'll read it to Rylee, and we'll pick one of them. But if you have a funny story that you found in the news, we will look into it a little bit to see if it is actually true or not. Because, in this day and time that anybody can create one. I saw, a thing the other day about SpongeBob being canceled.
Dude, it took me probably about 10 minutes to figure it out that it was not real. But, I mean, you got to think people have been doing that for, the past 3 years now.
Well, and I think that's where, obviously, we would have to look into it. But, once again, if you do have a funny story or a random story that you have found...
Make me laugh. Make me cry. That is how much
that's
I
the challenge
laugh.
right there.
Yes, there you
Make
go.
you fall out of the seat that you're sitting in as we record.
You're gonna hear
from laughter. You'll hear the thud.
Exactly.
I promise. Right, you may even hear the thud from the microphone falling down as he rolls into it if you get a good enough story. So, on Twitter, at R&D Sports Report, Facebook.com/RD Sports Report. You can go follow us there on Twitter. You can go like the page on Facebook, and we will let you know each and every time that these episodes are released. If we have any thoughts throughout the week on some of these issues that break out, we also will post on there from time to time. And that's the best time that you can interact with us, and the best place to interact with us is on Twitter and Facebook. The other thing to do, if you want to be able to get these episodes, and if you've been listening up to this point and you're not already subscribed, what are you doing with your life?
Come on, you gotta join the fun. You gotta join the amusement park here. I mean, there's plenty of fun, plenty of facts, plenty of
random stories.
Random stories that
slightly disgusting stories
that you might think people made up, but trust me,
you can't make some of this stuff up. So if you want to continue getting our random stories of the day, you need to go subscribe. You need to go favorite. You need to go follow, whatever you need to do on your listening platform. And as you do that, we would greatly appreciate it if you also spread the word with your friends. Go scream it from the mountains.
Hey, that'd be awesome.
And let people know that we are here twice a week, that you get 2 episodes each week, and you also get a lot of fun and enjoyment out of those episodes. You also get random facts of the day, because I am chock full of random facts.
Oh, yes, you are.
And
yes, you are.
You also will get random stories and fun things like that. So, with that being said, go subscribe. Help us out also by giving us a rating. A nice 5-star rating is nice and fair, in our opinion. Correct?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, completely fair. I mean, just for that story, that is worth a 5-star rating.
Shouts out to the woman that is it defecated? No.
Yeah, that's the word they used. Yeah.
Shouts out to her. Whether she's in jail right now or not. Shouts out to you and giving us a great story. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Once again, you can reach out to us on Twitter at R&D Sports Report, Facebook.com/RD Sports Report. Go subscribe, go favorite us, whatever you need to do to be able to get these episodes as they drop. Go give us a 5-star rating and help us climb up the charts. And this has been another episode of the R&D Sports Report.